tears running down his cheeks and his father's hand clasped between his own. Kohana sat beside him with an arm over Dixon's shoulder. He whispered so quietly that even I couldn't hear what he said. My heart had not gotten the memo that we were not sure of these men, apparently, and still ached at the sight of Dixon's grief over Mr. Lee, Dixon's father. Mr. Lee was still in the chair, bound even in death, his face slack and blue. The blood I gave him after he died had either not worked or not had enough time to do whatever it was they claimed it did. Or, more likely, his story about my blood being able to keep people alive was just the ramblings of a sick man, and he was gone forever. Peterson and the kid walked into the dining area from what was probably the hall, which drew my attention away from the vigil surrounding the chair. My eyes followed them as they crossed the room and walked past me, Peterson giving me a small smile as he reached me. Whatever issues I had with the hunters, at least they had gotten those two out of the compound, along with countless others. I didn't know where they all scattered to, but they had a chance at freedom since the hunters showed up to rescue me. I'd already freed myself, but I wasn't sure I would have been able to get both of them out. I gave Peterson as much of a smile as I could muster at that moment, which wasn't much, but the poor man deserved something. He should have been home with his wife and baby, not kidnapped and mixed up with the crazy floating around that house. My eyes drifted back to where Torin stood directly across the room from me, his arms still folded across his chest, as he waited on me to decide what I was going to do. I straightened my back and marched towards him, skirting around Mr. Lee and the guys. Torin turned before I ever got to him, showing me his back as he walked further into the living room. This fucking respectful shithead. My eyes narrowed at the insult of him turning his back on me, and it stoked the fire inside. "I trust you at my back, Everly," he called out without bothering to turn and look at me. Dumbass man really shouldn't if his next words didn't convince me. I rubbed at my chest as my entire being ached. I was so very weary. I paused at the entrance, scanning the room and marking the layouts, exits, and potential weapons it contained. Either they were morons, underestimated me, or didn't plan on fighting because they left the room bursting with things that could be used to end a life, even without my powers. The stupid lotion made from the Aurora plant Mr. Lee had rubbed on my skin still lingered, though my magics were straining, almost at the surface. The tissue paper thin barrier was nearly gone, and that, more than anything, settled my decision to hear them out. If I didn't like what they had to say, I would just incinerate the house and walk out with the ashes as souvenirs. Rendell already lounged on one of the couches, his face flashing with anger and shame before he put back on his mask. I hated that fucking mask. Torin seated himself at the opposite end of the couch while Rendell sprawled, now the picture of false calmness. It was something Torin needed to learn. I got the other couch all to myself and added a bit of sway to my hips as I pivoted and strutted toward my seat. If they wanted to play games, it would be one I had mastered. I plopped down and forced a lightness into my tone as I said, "So, Torin, what do you want to talk about? Your buddy that was just here? The one that evidently sent you and now more people after me? As if I didn't have enough trouble already." My gaze never wavered, and I picked up on the subtle changes in his facial expressions when I mentioned the councilman. Seems as though he didn't like Shaw. The slight tug on his lips, the minuscule movement of his eyelids, the twitch in his cheek. All things that pointed to him grimacing but not wanting to show it. "First, he is not and will never be my friend," Torin the fuckwad said before sighing with his whole body and falling back on the couch. "Look, I admit we went about this all wrong. We should have told you more from the start. I'm sorry for that. We are just used to keeping everything within our group and not trusting outsiders." He paused as his finger began to rub his eyebrow. He needed to learn to control that nervous tic before he lost far more than just the skin there.